What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Hi, welcome back. And today in our math lesson, we're going to be on page 47, and it's at lesson activity 2-4. And you might be asking yourself, Mr. Jones, why did we skip so many pages to get to that page here? Well, you know, normally if we were in the classroom, we would probably have a lot more time to teach you multiple ways to do this multiplication. But since we're doing this distance learning, we decided to boil it down to one clear way to teach you and help you guys to get really good at doing that one method. And that one method, as we mentioned before, is called the standard algorithm. So we're going to be learning something today called the area model, which is just going to help you visualize doing that multiplication a little bit better so you can continue to grow and improve in that. So once again, grab your pencil and grab your notebook and open to page 47. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started by taking a look at this area model. So we talked about in the last lesson what area is, right? Length times width. And here we see it's the same thing, length and width. And if we had those squares that we're looking at in the last lesson, you could see it's really similar, if not even the same thing as these little dots here, right? Because if we could start tracing these, we could make these boxes, right, with these rows and these columns all the way across. So when you see this, you could find out how much stuff is in the inside of this box. You could find out the area of this box by multiplying, right? Or technically, you could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we want to learn how to do the actual multiplication. So we could take all day and count all those boxes, but you know what? That would really take a long time. And we want to learn how to just do this multiplication because it's much faster. So as we learn this today, we're just going to walk through these problems and we're going to keep referring back to this model to kind of understand what it's asking us to do. So first, I want to point out a few things. You see 20 in a 4 here, and this is one box, right? 20 times 4, that is one box. We have this box here, we have plus 6. This is another box. So when we see here in problem 1, how many square units of area are there in the tens part of the drawing? Well, we go, well, which is the tens part of the drawing? Well, you know from our place value lessons that this is the tens part of the drawing because that number, that 2, is in the what? The tens place. So how many square units of area are there in the tens part of the drawing? Well, you could count all these squares up, right? So how many square units are there? But here's a trick. You know what 2 times 4 is, right? It's 8. And we've done this trick where you add the 0 to it. That's 80. So there are 80 of these little boxes inside of this part of the drawing. Okay. Number 2 here, what multiplication equation? I know that sounds scary. Equation. What are we talking about with that? Don't worry about it. It's not that scary. Let me explain why. What multiplication equation gives the area of the tens part of the drawing? Write this equation in the rectangle. Well, we just did it. Once again, here's the tens part of the drawing. And what are we doing here? We're doing 20 times 4, right? That's going to tell us how much stuff is on the inside of this, this area model. 20 times 4. So that's our equation, is 20 times 4. Okay. How many square units of area are in the ones part? So now we're looking at this guy over here. We're looking at this plus 6. This is the ones part. And it's asking us how many units are in this. So, you know, we could do our little boxes here. And we could count all these up. But here's an easier way to do it. We know, based on this number 6 here, that this part of the drawing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at that, 6 units wide. And we know, based on this 4 here, that it's 4 units tall. So you could even write 4 over here if we're looking at this one section. And you know what 6 times 4 is. And if you don't know, you can refer back to your your graph there, 6 times 4 is 24. So there are 24 units, 24 of these little squares, each square is a unit, inside of this part of the drawing. 24. So now we know this. We know that there are 80 units in this part of the drawing, and there are 24 units in this part of the drawing. Well, what do we do next? What do we do with all that? Well, let's keep looking and see what the next question is. I think it's getting us there. What multiplication equation gives you the area of the ones part? Write this equation in its rectangle. So we just did it. We just did it right here. We did 6 times 4. And that's the equation because you're multiplying 6 times 4. 6 by 4. We got 6 units wide and 4 units tall. What is the total of the two areas? So that's what they want us to know here. Okay, so let's go back over here. We have 80 in the tens part of the drawing. We have 24 in the ones part of the drawing. So let's add this up. What is it? We have 4 and we have 10. 104. What is the total of the two areas? 104. Okay. Number 6. How do you know that 104 is the correct product of 4 times 26? Wait, 4 times 26, we didn't do that. No, we actually did. You might think we did 20 times 4 and 4 times 6, but really, if we were to take this little line out here, and this is one rectangle, it's 26 times 4, which is the same thing as that. How do we know that 104 is the correct product? Remember, product is the answer when you multiply. The correct product of 4 times 26? Well, because we did the problem here in 26 times 4, there are 104 units inside of that area model. Okay, number 7. Read problems A and B. And it's asking here, which problem could you solve using the multiplication you just did? Explain why. Okay, here's the first one. Al's photo album has 26 pages. Each page has 4 photos. How many photos are in Al's album? Could we solve that problem using multiplication? Well, let's take a look at B and C. Nick took 4 photos. Henry took 26 photos. How many more? That's the key phrase right there. How many more photos did Henry take than Nick? Remember when we do those daily math packets and stuff, when we see how many more, we're not talking multiplication, are we? We're talking subtraction. So if Al's photo album has 26 pages and each page has 4 photos, how many are in the album? Well, we could do that area model and draw that up, and we realize here that this is a multiplication problem. So A is a multiplication problem because it's helping us find how many photos are in Al's album. Okay, so that's there. I know I was a little up on the camera there, but that's that right there. Okay, so let's look at this next page here. Let's look at page 48. Now I want you guys to work these out on your own and do them in your graph paper. We'll even do number 8 together. And it says this: draw a rectangle for each problem on your math board. Remember, math board is the same thing as this graph paper for our purposes here. Find the tens product, the ones product, and then the total. Okay? So you could count out 28 squares here, 28 squares and 3, but let's just do this. Let's just go like that. Oops. That on the wrong side. Okay. Okay, so we know 3 is here. So let's pretend that that's the height is 3. And let's go 20, because that's the tens product, the tens part of this drawing, and an 8 is the ones part of this drawing. And then we do our little plus, just like on the last one. So then you go, what is 2 times 3 is 6. Add a 0, 60. What is 8 times 3? 24. and then you add them together, and that will give you that answer. So it's saying find the tens product. Our tens product is 60, right? You go 60. Your ones product is 24, and the total is 84. Okay, so as you work out these problems, 9 through 15, go ahead and use your graph paper to do it. But you're going to see here, you're not going to have enough boxes, 38. There's only 30 boxes on one sheet of paper here. So you're not going to have enough room to do one box for each one here. So do what I did. Do this model just representing it, but not doing one box for each individual unit, okay? So do like this, so I did 20 plus 8 and then 3, and that way you're just using the model to help you remember the process without having to draw a million boxes all over your paper, okay? So now that we've done a few examples and worked out this visual idea of how to do this multiplication, go ahead and do problem 8 through 17 in your workbook, but you can go ahead and do 8 through 15 on your graph paper and take a picture of the graph paper. You don't need to, since there's a lot of drawing and rectangles there, you don't need to draw it in your actual workbook. You can do it on your graph paper. And then take a picture of that, and then take a picture of your page for answers 16 and 17. You don't need to do problem 18. Don't worry about problem 18. So once again, 8 through 15, do it in your graph paper, and then 16 and 17, do it in your workbook. Take a picture of both, upload them to Seesaw, and you guys have an amazing weekend.